Hi, my name is Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join us as we talk with industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favorite TV and radio personalities, asking the renewable energy questions that you want answers to. Our goal, a zero carbon future. I'm absolutely thrilled today to be joined by Simon van der Aar, a specialist engineer for Hydro Tasmania. Hello, Simon. How are you?
Good, thanks, Rosh. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, thank you very much for joining me. I know you're a very busy man, so it's an absolute privilege to have you on today. Simon, we obviously had a lot of fun filming on Flinders Island, which you were very gracious in taking us around and showing us the entire island. It's an absolutely incredible island, and the project there, facilitated by Hydro Tasmania, is absolutely amazing. For anyone watching or listening quickly, Hydro, this particular island, Flinders Island, it's stunning. It's going to be featured on this week's Energy Matters, which is going to be on Saturday on 9 Live at 4 p.m. So you definitely want to tune in to watch it. It's also a really lovely sunny day. So the filming went like an absolute dream. Simon, before we talk about Flinders Island, I'm really keen. I know my audience always likes to know the people behind the brands. So can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, your career to date, and what led you to Hydro Tasmania?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Simon, obviously. I'm actually from Tasmania. I was born here and educated here, went to university in Hobart, did engineering. My first job was actually with the Hydro, just as a graduate engineer, doing a bit of mechanical, bit of electrical. That was back in 1995. And one of my first jobs was actually on Flinders Island. So I've been there a bit. Back then, it was very different to what it is now. Back then, it was just diesel. I've also worked in most of our other hydro plant around the place. Spent some time interstate and overseas, as you do when you're young. You go and you work elsewhere. Ended up coming back to Hydro Tasmania a couple of times because it's a great place to work, and I love living in Tasmania as well, which is always a nice benefit. But Hydro's a great place to work, A, as a place, but B, in terms of I really identify with what we do. That whole push for I guess renewable energy is at our core. Hydro Tasmania's major fleet is hydro energy, and yeah, it's just something I believe in and agree with, and it's great to work with. So,
one thing I did find in all the time, we filmed 3 different projects in Tasmania, and the one thing I found to be very consistent amongst everybody I've spoken to at Hydro is how much they do actually love what they do. And as you've just highlighted really succinctly there as well, it's just really about that love of the fact that, you're doing something positive. It's not only engineering and like pushes you guys in terms of your thought processes and your engineering ability and just like problem solving. But it's more so just about the fact that, you're actually every time you guys go to work, you're making a profound difference to our planet and really just flying the flag for renewable energy, which is just absolutely amazing. And which is why we're so excited to do the filming that we have. I won't talk about the other projects just now either because I don't want to spoil them either. But really, if you were to differentiate Hydro Tasmania from other energy generators out there who also retail electricity, what would you say are the sort of key things that jump out?
I think one key thing with Hydro Tasmania is that because we operate in Tasmania primarily, and we've got a long history here. Our first station was well over 100 years ago now, and over that time, Hydro's always been very embedded in Tasmanian history and culture, and everyone knows someone who works for the Hydro. So we really are part of the state. And I think there's a lot of people that are proud, people that work here, and also just people in general in Tasmania that are proud that we've got this hydro network here. If you look briefly at the history, we were, if you go back 50, 60, 70 years, and we didn't have coal hydro that came from that, and that's our fleet that's built up. And over the course of that, particularly the last 50 or 60 years, a lot of people have touched hydro in sort of professionally. People can go and see it. The dams are used for fishing, they're used for boating, they're used for rowing, camping, all that sort of stuff. So hydro's got a real touch with the community, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's certainly one thing I also notice. It's just how once again, the dams and the different like waterways. I mean, there's just so much connection to community, but also just, especially with more so the dams and the river runs and whatnot, how that water's kind of recycled and actually utilized to obviously support community events and even rowing events that we bumped into at one of the places we're filming.
Yeah, we had I think the national championships were on while you were here.
That's right, exactly that. So we didn't get to see the championships, unfortunately, but we were very clear that they were happening whilst we were there, and there's just such a lot of love for Hydro Tasmania amongst the locals, as well as those coming to watch events. So just curious as to who is this Hydro Tasmania. Simon, I suppose let's quickly talk about the TV show before we actually start chatting about it. Let's just quickly play a clip. So if anyone watching, if you're listening, you can hear some audio. But for those who are watching, this this segment is a quick summary of what we did on Flinders Island, and is what's going to be showing this week on Energy Matters, Saturday at 4 p.m.
This was one of the first proper, if you like, grid applications of really high penetration renewables. There were lots around that might be 10 houses or 20 houses or a small town. This is a full island with 350 kilometres of distribution line and wind and faults and all those things. And we've managed to do not only the high penetration station, but the whole network is now much more rugged and reliable because of what's in here.
There you go, Simon. So that was absolutely awesome. Can you just, first and foremost, did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was good. But it's always good talking to people that A, understand it a bit, but B, are actually interested and passionate about it as well. So I'm not just talking, there's questions coming back as well. And so when it becomes two-way, I turn talking for hours into talking for days. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good.
Well, I realise you and I were having some some really, really great conversations, and I think there's a lot of audio. So
yeah, I bet.
So certainly
the whole time. So
completely, the editors have got their work cut out. But I for one, am just I love what I do for my own role, but I love our industry, and the whole show's ethos is around Australia's journey towards net zero, and and really for me, in Australia, 100% powered by renewable energy is the one I want to see. And we know there's challenges inside of that, but that's obviously the goal. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we're going to see on this segment without giving away too much?
I guess we'll see a bit about what the solution we've put in on Flinders Island, the sort of high renewable part of that. A bit of discussion around the challenges on that, both in terms of implementing it, but also running it day to day. The push to 100% renewables is challenging. The push to 50 or 60 is hard, but when you go further, it gets even harder. And yeah, you probably just see a bit of the beauty of Flinders Island as well. It is a lovely spot. It's a privilege to be able to go there and work. When I tell people where I'm going for the day, they go, "Oh, I've never been there," and I go, "Well, I'm going every month at the moment." So,
I actually did feel bad chatting to some of your colleagues at Hydro as well, because when they knew we were filming at Flinders, and they're like, "We've never been there," and I was like,
no. But that said, pretty much every one of our power stations is in a stunning spot. By definition, a hydro power station has to be somewhere mountainous and wet and green, and so it's going to be beautiful. It's cold and average weather some of the time, but they're beautiful places to work. Far nicer than working at the hot end of a coal plant, I can assure you. I've done that too.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the distinction there straight away is it really is reflective of what we're looking to achieve. We want a beautiful, green, healthy planet, and then you look at like massive coal plants pumping out, sort of carbon into the atmosphere, and then you kind of then look on the other side of it with this beautiful dam, riverways, islands, like wind turbines doing their things with beautiful backdrops and scenery. It kind of very much is reflective of what, for me, renewable energy represents, which is utilizing Earth's elements and the power of the sun, the wind. We have all these amazing things available to us, and from those we can generate our own electricity. One thing that really surprised me about hydro, period, and I will sorry for digressing, but is the fact of what you just said. It's over 100 years old, and to know that renewable energy, we've had access to renewable energy for a century. Yet there's still such a dependency, or has been such a dependency until recently, on coal. It's just like, seriously? I know it's easy to just mine it and just burn it, but we've had the technology and the brains for a century. I don't know why it's taken so long.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I guess hydro is very terrain and weather specific. You can't put hydro in South Australia, for instance. It just won't work. Tasmania is fortunate in that we've got, as I said, lots of hills and lots of rain. And the Snowies, or the Snowy Mountains has got that as well. But that said, now that there's all these other technologies coming out that are making it far more accessible, wind and solar are the two big ones, obviously. But there's geothermal and all sorts of other things that will come up and start to fill in some of those other holes as well. The big key for me with all renewable stuff, particularly when you're talking wind and solar, and it's particularly being brought home on the islands, is that the key to an effective, reliable, dependable system is diversity. You don't have wind or solar, you have wind and solar. And so it's not always that when it's windy, it's not sunny, and when it's sunny, it's not windy, but those two things are somewhat complementary. And the more variety you can have in terms of generation type and also physical location. So if it's windy over here, that might not be windy over here, but the more you can diversify that, the more even that becomes, and that whole variability of renewable energy problem, because it is a problem, gets a bit smaller. It doesn't go away, but it gets smaller.
I mean, one of the things I noticed on the island, and as you just referenced there, what I suppose differentiates Flinders Island from the other projects we filmed in Tasmania is there's no hydro. It's all wind and solar power. And I noticed that one moment, we were walking around and you're like, uh-oh, because it wasn't windy, right? There was a light breeze, and one of the turbines was like, I think it was just your concern was like, the turbines may not necessarily spin today. They did. And but it seemed, and I think what you're saying is as well, the speed of the turbine, like anyone watching or listening would assume that the windier it is, the faster the turbine spin, but that's not the case, is it? They just kind of get to a point, and then that's where they sort of maintain.
They do, and it's the analogy I use because it is a bit counterintuitive. The analogy I use is it's like when you're driving along the road in your car and you're doing 100 k's an hour and your car's doing 2,500 RPM. You go up a hill and you're still doing 100 k's an hour. Your car's still doing 2,500 RPM because that's set by the relationship between the gearbox and the engine and the speed. But you're putting more fuel in to do that. So your device can do the same speed but produce or use more energy. So in the case of wind turbine, it's producing more energy. In the case of your car, it's using more. So while the turbine's going the same speed, there's more input energy going in, and that is turning into output energy coming out rather than kinetic energy in the speed. Does that make sense?
It does completely. It does. In fact, actually, the way I've just described it is just completely logical and layman. So I think anyone watching right now and listening is going to completely just get it. I have a quick question.
It is a bit confusing. I have to admit, the first time you see it, you go, hang on, shouldn't it go faster? No, it just puts out more power.
And that's it. It literally is the assumption you'd make, is that this thing's going to just be spinning like crazy as the wind picks up. But, which is why I sort of played with you straight away saying, shouldn't it be going faster? You're like, nah, that is the speed. Just going back a step before, so can you tell us about how the Flinders Island project just first happened? I mean, what was the, and I believe there's another consulting component to Hydro Tasmania, which is Intura, that was involved in that process?
Yeah, so Hydro Tasmania, as I said, our background is hydro. That's what we do. We did also have a couple of other stations that we run on King Island and Flinders Island, which are the two islands in Bass Strait. Now, because Hydro Tasmania was a state government entity, now we're a GBE, we do carry a bit of some of those responsibilities for powering some of those areas. So we had the ownership of King and Flinders Island. They were both 100% diesel stations. And over the years, we've sort of, over on King Island, we put in some wind turbines, then put in some more wind turbines. We experimented with a battery and a resistor and a few things. And that all bubbled along and organically grew into a system very similar to Flinders Island now. So high wind, high solar. We can go zero diesel. and all that sort of stuff. That took us the best part of probably 15 years of partial bits and pieces development. We had support with Arena most of the way along. A lot of it we did internally. So, and all that knowledge we sort of kept internally. Now Hydro had a consulting arm, or the engineering business, if you like, the consulting business, that we a few years ago we had sort of a rebranding, and we actually split the consulting arm off as Insurer. So that's a consulting business, but it's owned by Hydro Tasmania, and we work very closely with them. So a lot of that knowledge that was used to develop the King Island solution, we said, okay, let's package all that up into a NETA solution and put it on Flinders as well. So the Flinders solution took the knowledge that Hydro had learned through experimenting. We also took the knowledge that Hydro had through operating, because Hydro primarily operate these things, used Insurer's consulting and engineering expertise, and came up with the full solution on Flinders, where we came in and over the course of about a year and a half of integration work, plus another year or two of design and so forth, put this whole system on the ground that replicated what we did on King, but some different, it's a different size, a slightly different layout. So then we took that and put it on Flinders. Insurer have also done some other projects. We did a similar project at Cooperpedy, a similar project on Rottnest Island. We do a lot of, they do a lot of consulting on some of the remote Pacific islands, because they've got a similar problem to what Flinders had. The easiest way to do energy in those places is diesel. It's a simple solution and it works, but it's expensive and it's dirty. So what we've done on Flinders, Insurer have taken and tried to sort of put in elsewhere around the world as well.
Which is amazing. So really, one of the things that jumps at me straight away with, what you've just sort of described is really with via Insurer, you've actually developed, gone through a consulting process and engineering process, developed a really, viable solution for King Island, and then thought, right, well, that works. We now look at Flinders Island, which was, prior to your involvement, 100% powered by diesel. I mean, as you said, yes, it's efficient. Yes, it does the job, but it is incredibly dirty, and it's something we want to move away from. So you managed to replicate and refine that to now being, I think it's 60%, 60% powered by renewables with a 40% sort of diesel at times. And then there's points of the day when it could be 100% renewable. Is that right for Flinders?
Yeah, so the 60% number is over the course of a year. So that's our average, I guess. And that takes into account the times when you have wind droughts and solar droughts and nighttime and so forth as well. So over the course of a year, it's about 60% renewable, 40% diesel. There are some times it's 100% diesel. That's very rare now. But we can also run 100% renewable, like you say, and it's often for multiple days at a time. So if it's windy and then a bit sunny, well, if it's windy enough and or sunny enough, we can turn the diesels off. And our record's now nearly 7 days, I think, on King, and the same on Flinders. So that I guess that's one of the big things there is that, so when we sell the solution elsewhere, we've got the brains and the expertise of Insurer. We've got the credibility and the operational knowledge of Hydro, because it's relatively easy to build something that'll work for a week or a month. It's hard to build something that'll work for 10 or 15 years. So now we've got those runs on the wall with Hydro. So we've got the sort of credibility of operating. Plus we've got, we can point to systems and go, look, this works. Here's the data. Here's the evidence. We've been doing this for 10 plus years now, and this is what it's done over that time. Here's some of the problems we've had. This has failed or that's broken or whatever, but this is how we work through them. These are, the operational challenges that everyone faces, and you have to work through. So we've got like a full solution,
which is incredible. So it really does offer that opportunity for any other organisations, countries, cities, remote areas around the world, who basically have a problem with energy generation, are relying on, diesel, for example, as their primary source. And then I suppose on a case-by-case basis, could they contact Insurer and say, hey, we've kind of seen this segment on Energy Matters, or we were aware of Flinders Island and King Island, can you help us? Is that something Insurer would say, yep, we'll evaluate it and see on a case-by-case basis, but certainly it's what you could do?
I would imagine so, yeah. Because one of the keys of having someone like Insura is that there's some real engineering horsepower there, and they will look at an area or a situation and go, right, you need lots of solar and a little bit of wind, or a bit of both, or you can put a pumped hydro here, or they've got all the ins and outs. One of the things, I guess, the real learnings that we got from the systems we've done is that we didn't actually we haven't really used any new technology. It's standard wind, it's standard solar. Our diesels are standard diesels. The key is in the system that sits over the top and brings it all together and decides when to run this, when to run that, how much of this you need. That's where the real sort of learning is. So these things, when they go in, are quite. They're not some big shiny black box that no one knows how they work. It's all relatively simple, not simple, but standard gear that people can run with. And that's one of the keys to having these things run for a long time, is they've got to be maintainable. Even things like access in a remote island, putting up a 300 metre wind tower is tough. And then 5 years down the track, when you need to do maintenance and you need that crane back again, well, you can't necessarily get it. So all those sorts of things come into your thinking as well.
Which is actually incredible. So the learnings you've actually gained are invaluable for any other type of project, but also, understanding that there was, everything had to be shipped in at some point to be able to be assembled. And then, as you said, even with a crane, and, to just, those wind turbines are so tall. It's unbelievable. I won't give away too much because it's all in the show. But we did discuss that on camera, and putting those things together is a mission in itself. So it really is incredible. I mean, what would have Flinders Island become 100% renewable consistently 365 days of the year? What's the missing link?
My sort of belief on this is the big key is storage. It's to run 100% renewable. You need you need one thing. You need enough energy, but you need the energy spread out over the course of when you need it. So you need to be able to harvest. No, I'll go back a step. You need three things. You need the actual source of energy. So you need wind, sun, whatever, which Flinders has got in spades. So there's plenty of wind, no problem with that. You need to have enough assets to harvest that energy, so wind turbines and solar. So you can put up enough to capture the gigawatt hours that you need over the course of a year. But you need to be able to use it when you need to want to use it, not when it's generated. So the missing link in that sort of thing, I think, is storage. And so that's accepted. I think the world over, storage is the next big part of making this work. Because with renewable energy, if you go back to the simple situation, if you've just got solar, then obviously you need at the very minimum, you need enough storage to get you through the night. Yeah. And you need to over generate what you need during the day. So if you need a megawatt during the day, you need to be generating 2 megawatts, because you need a megawatt at night as well. So you really need to over install your generating capacity, which when people first look at it, they go, we've got a 1 megawatt load. Why have we got 2 megawatts of wind and a megawatt of solar? That's too much. Yeah, well, because you have to store it for here. So it's that balance of building enough, but ensuring that you actually get a return on what's being generated out of that as well. Because you don't want to build 5 megawatts of solar, because you actually don't need all that. So I hear
you. Yeah. And really, from a storage point of view, would it be, I suppose there's options available for storage. So there's really obviously, lithium batteries, which is kind of what's really, starting to gain traction now here for rooftop solar for homes and businesses. And also potentially like hydrogen storage as another solution as well.
Look, it's the advantages and disadvantages of the different technologies is certainly not something that I professionally work in. I've got an interest in it and I follow it. The batteries, I think, will probably be a combination of batteries and pumped hydro. I think will be probably the ideal. That's my personal take on it. We do need that long storage, that deep storage, or whatever the buzzword of the week is. It seems to change all the time. But also with batteries, we need that fast acting, fast response storage as well, because it can then do things around power and energy control as well. It can do frequency control and voltage control and those sorts of elements as well, which are often unseen in the energy mix, but are vital.
Well, I did say to you on whilst we were filming that I've got a colleague or an organisation that works on hydrogen storage. And and if Sherry, if you're watching right now, I did speak to her about it a couple of weeks ago, and it is pricked up when I spoke about Flinders Island. So it's another conversation for another time, Simon.
Yeah, for sure.
All of our audience, you heard it here first. Let's see Flinders Island version 2.0 maybe next year with Sherry's help, and we can see what we can work out. Simon, a couple of final points before we let you go. I mean, why is it important for people to better understand energy and how they can make a difference?
Energy is vital I guess, in everything we do. We sort of downplay it a bit because we're used to just walking in and turning the lights on and they go and putting our fuel in our car and off it goes. But we do use a lot of it. And there are things we can do to ensure that we're getting it from places that are better for the planet, and all, obviously. And start to think about some of the different ways that we use it, when we use it, the sort we use. So, I mean, cars is an obvious one. We associate petrol with cars, but with an EV, that's another way to do it. That needs a bit of a change of thinking. So, the common thing is about, it's going to take me half an hour to charge my car, etc. All those sorts of arguments. We have to change the mindset of I fill my car when it's empty to I fill my car every time I can. So when you come home, even if it only needs 5%, you plug it in, so that when you leave, it's always full. And it's just a bit of a change in thinking about how you use your energy and why you do that. That's just one example, but things like changing to heat pump up water, or changing to an induction stove, or all those things. Look at what are the benefits. Why does it need any changes in lifestyle and changes in how you use things? And if so, is that a problem for you? But to do that, you need to understand a bit about energy.
Yeah, completely. And with the
that's why energy matters.
Exactly, energy does matter. and I think with the emergence of the amount of technology that we have right now, and consumer technology, I mean, it's really opening our eyes to, and the example you just used there with an EV is a brilliant one, because it's like a mobile phone. I mean, right now, my mobile's connected to power. Why wouldn't I? Because I'm making calls, I'm taking calls, I'm using my phone for various aspects of my role throughout the day. And rather than waiting for my phone to completely run out of battery and then I'm without a phone and then charge it, I'm connecting it to a power source as soon as I can. And the same thing applies with cars, EVs, like you just said. It really isn't like I think there's an old way of thinking, like, I know what I know, and she'll be all right. But then the other side of it really is, look, we're not there anymore. We've evolved past that. So now we've just got to jump onto the tech train, and just understand if we are going to actually help this planet reduce our carbon footprint and protect it for future generations, we just kind of need to start to think a little bit differently. And it doesn't have to be a massive jump outside of the box. It just has to be little tweaks to day, and do what you can. Like if every single person collaboratively did one little thing around the planet, we wouldn't have a problem. Right?
Yeah.
And so
it'll also have to get better. Yeah.
Then we just need the government to jump in and help as well. All right, good stuff, Simon. So that final thing, anything you want to sort of quickly let us know about what's in the can for Flinders Island or Hydro Tasmania? Any little exclusives you can drop that's not going to get you in trouble?
There's not really anything in the pipeline for Flinders at the moment. So it's it came into full flow, I guess, 5-6 years ago. So now it's in the middle of its operating life, and where it's all doing what it should be doing. We are doing some work on King Island, because our assets over there are, as I said, that they went in some time ago, so they're now getting towards end of life. So we're looking at, okay, how do we keep those benefits going? And so we're renewing our wind turbines. We've put in extra solar. So there's some work going there. That is one of the challenges. Is everyone's very excited when it first goes in, and you put all these new things up, and great, we're using less diesel and so forth. But come replacement time, you have to fork out again for it. So that's a challenge. Here in Tasmania, we're doing a lot of refurbishment on a lot of our larger hydro turbines. We're starting to up the output a bit, and looking at the upcoming changes in operations with the NEM, and with the changing NEM load profiles as well, particularly around solar is a big thing now in the national market, the duck curve and all those things that we hear about. So how hydro best fits into that. So that's where a lot of our work here on mainland Tasmania is.
Fantastic. Well, look, as I said to you on the island, you know, there'd be nothing better than to see Hydro Tasmania, Australia, and you know, give the mainland, the mainland, you know, a helping hand as well, because you know, certainly the migration away from fossil fuels has to be accelerated, and you know, you guys really demonstrate both in Tasmania as well as the two islands, you know, what's possible. And and it's really, really inspiring to see. So, look, Simon, thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate it. You've been an absolute legend as always. And I wish you all the well.
Thanks very much, Rosh. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, mate. So, guys, you heard it here first. You know, you have to see this week's episode of Energy Matters. Flinders Island is absolutely incredible. As I said to you, we copped a little bit of weather whilst we're in Tassie, but when we got to Flinders, it was just clear blue skies and stunning. And so not only does it look beautiful, but the technology and just watching, you know, the wind turbines and, you know, the large sort of solar farm setup they've got over there is just mesmerizing. It's absolutely heartwarming and really shows you what's possible and a sign of hopefully what's to come around the entire country and hopefully around the world. Thank you so much for your attention today. I do appreciate it. To find out more about everything we've spoken about before, obviously just jump onto our website, energymatters.com.au. For those of you who've been watching the TV show, thank you for you know, for your time and just for your commitment to watching it. Hope you've taken some stuff away from it. This week's episode, as I said, will be incredible. And look, it's not too late to get sold if you haven't already. I mean, jump onto our site once again and just click any of the call to action buttons that you see, or onto the page we have specifically there to capture your information to partner you with local installers around the country, which is energymatters.com.au/free solar quotes. And we'll certainly, you know, give you link you to experts in your local area who can install, you know, not only solar power, but battery storage, EV chargers, heat pumps, anything to do with energy efficiency. So really for you, there's different little things you can do that can make a massive difference. If you haven't got a rooftop suitable for solar, it's okay. There are other things you can do for your home as well. Other than that, enjoy this week's episode, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. All the best.